Mariners 5, Guardians 6. On Sunday, the Mariners not only blew the lead in this game that they had, they also blew a series that they had the lead in this game and were going on to win. And they also blew their division lead. They also blew their 500 record into a losing record. This was as bad of a results game as you could get for the Mariners later, like in the late game stages and stuff. And it was a game of inches. There was some massive mistakes on both sides on defense from players that you really wouldn't expect these mistakes from. And there was a whole lot of good offense from both teams as well. Just that the Mariners was like more like rooted in doing the fundamentals right and everything like that. And the Guardians was like, oh, well, let's just see if we can kind of mess with the Mariners, pitchers and, kind of chaos ball this game up. And the Guardians turned this game into kind of chaos in the late innings, and you end up in the position that you're in. So the Mariners not in a good position, 42-43. And do I think Texas is going to go on and win the AL West after taking the lead from us today? No. I do think that just letting them back in instead of stomping them out. Brady Farkas, credit to him, because he was talking about recently on his podcast. The Mariners have the tough matchups coming up. The schedule hasn't got tough yet. You still have to play like the Dodgers and a whole lot of good teams coming up. The schedule right now in June was the one that you were supposed to kind of gain some ground on. You keep battling back to 500 this month. And honestly, I applaud the team for doing it. But at the end of the day, at the end of the year, right? It's how many 1-0s did you have? It doesn't matter when you get the wins. It matters that you got the wins. And the Mariners just don't have enough to say, like, this is for sure a contender. You'll have Jeff Passan's probably going to go on Seattle Sports and say that this is still the second most likely team to make the World Series in the AL, because that's where we're at. The AL is very close. It's not anything like the National League, where you've got a couple stalwarts and a couple really bad teams. It is a whole lot of teams in the middle, like 5 games up or 5 games below 500. That's the entire AL almost. So I'm gonna get into this actual game. The Mariners 5, Guardians 6. Mariners put up the runs early, the second inning. You get one. You got Julio, Naylor, and Cal scoring. 3 of the top 5 guys in your lineup. Your big 3 on offense, all scoring early in this game. 3 innings, 3 runs. Your big 3s all scored. So the momentum was in the right place. And Emerson Hancock was kind of breezing through. He wasn't having the hardest time. He ends up 5 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts to 3 walks, 8 hard hits on 98 pitches. Doesn't give up the homer. Otherwise, it could have been, a worse line. He did give up 8 base runners here. But what I didn't like about this was actually not Emerson Hancock in particular. It was the fact that at 98 pitches, you're 1 out to go in the 6th inning. He walks a guy, and Edward Bizardo gets brought in the 6th inning. So Emerson Hancock not going to get the quality start. But more than that, you already have a depleted bullpen as the Mariners. And with Bizardo going in there, you're now kind of getting rid of your one leverage righty that's available. Other than Andres Munoz, obviously. But, then you got, like, at that point, right, Michael Rucker's the next guy up, who, by the way, with Michael Rucker, I am not going to slander Michael Rucker or put this on him today. Look at his Savant page. He has excellent expected stats. He has all sorts of things going for him in the analytics department. This isn't a bad selection on the team. He's not a bad selection to pitch in this game. But my problem right here is just, it's not the ordering either. It's the spot that you took Hancock out in. And I think you got a little cute with it. You tried to be really proactive with your bullpen usage to get the best matchups. That's why, this looks like it does. And it just ended up backfiring, and you gave the Guardians an entire extra time through the lineup, so everybody had to face all the matchups, and it didn't matter at the in the end. You bring Bizardo in, he throws 10 pitches, gets 1 out to finish the 6th inning. Spire comes in for the 7th, allows 2 hits, but it's a clean inning. Then you've got Michael Rucker and Josh Simpson coming in big leverage situations, and they give up 5 earned runs in the 8th inning. just an absolute eighth inning from I don't know what to call it. An eighth inning from hell is what this was for the Mariners. I mean, you've got like J.P. Crawford had an infield fly rule with Travis Bazzana when the bases are loaded. I'm pretty sure that there's all sorts of guys on base, and it bounces out of his glove. He closes his glove too early and has to reach down and grab it out here. It just the type of things that you just really can't expect to see. And despite all this, right? So the Mariners are losing 6-4. And the run ends up scoring, by the way, that this one play that got me up off my couch, got me really just animated. Just like if I was, Dan Wilson in this moment, I would have been livid. And I'm sure he was, but he challenged and they ended up getting the call right. Just watching, though, on the TV, this play where Chase DeLauter scores coming into home plate. After, by the way, Steven Kwan also scores in this. It looks like Chase DeLauter is just coming for the plate. Garver catches the ball, tags him, and it's completely normal, completely reasonable. There's nothing going on that should make this not an out, and yet he's called safe. And I just was like, what is going on here? He's got the ball. He's out by a mile. He's not blocking the plate. If that's what you're like. None of it made any sense. It was like, okay, what's going on? And then you watch the replay and it gets a little bit easier to understand. You see the replay from different angles that says, okay, like he clearly had the ball in his glove as he was tagging Bazzana. Maybe after he's already tagged Bazzana, the ball comes out. And that's what the umpire was saying. But he clearly tags Bazzana while he still has the ball in his glove. So it's, doesn't end up being like that. Then, now the call in the field was upheld, which I was convinced okay, this thing is getting overturned. But the broadcast wasn't. Aaron Goldsmith was like, well, I just don't know with these camera angles if they have enough evidence to overturn this. And they ended up not. But something about this just felt, I don't know. This is I rarely will I say, oh, I know more than the umpire. Who had a clear view of this thing. I understand what Goldsmith says, and there wasn't overwhelming evidence to overturn this, but I thought, in my opinion, it was to the point of overwhelming evidence that he has the ball. And then there's also this was like a fair ball that looked like it was going foul, and it ends up sneaking in fair. And the thing about that is that, this is already an inning from hell for the Mariners. They're blowing the lead, and they've blown the lead from 4-1 to now it's a 4-4 ball game. And Josh Simpson is out there making his second appearance for the Mariners. He's been put out there in the worst situations for the Mariners so far. It's I think he's had 2 appearances for the Mariners, and they've both been one of those the first of the White Sox games, I believe, might be his only other appearance this year. If we're to go and look at Simpson game logs. No, he did get in on a couple other games too, the 9th, the 13th, but he keeps getting put in these situations that are just oh my goodness, and he doesn't have a single full clean inning still. So I do think there's a whole lot here with Josh Simpson as a major league pitcher. The Marlins almost wanted this guy to be their closer last year. It's hard to decipher. If you're just looking at the StatCaster, if you're just looking at the stats, his 7.49 ERA and all this other stuff is not going to tell you that he's good. The fact that he can't get a clean inning all year, but there is a whole lot of interesting stuff here that major league organizations like more than we do. And so with Michael Rucker and Josh Simpson, I do want to get out of the way. It's not their fault, and I actually don't hate. I like the pitchers. What I don't like here, and I know this is a rant that's now going to take me. This might be a 20-minute video, so strap your seatbelts in for another 10 minutes of this. But Bizzardo gets put in the 6th. That forces you to go to Spire in the 7th, which means that you've now lined it up for Rucker and Simpson to pitch the 8th and the 9th, which just isn't the way that you do. That's not the way you want to do your bullpen usage. The obvious idea is well, can we have the lower leverage guys pitch earlier and then the higher leverage guys pitch later. Which the other thing is, okay, well, if we're going 1-0, we're looking at the current situation. We want the current guys, or we want Rucker and Simpson earlier, and then we could use Bizzardo and Spire later, to close this game out. Well, I just honestly would have left Hancock in the 6th inning. I know it's a little bit rough, but your bullpen is a little bit light, and you need, like you've been doing, the piggyback stuff to manage your bullpen and manage starters, innings and stuff. This is the scenario where it's like, look, Emerson Hancock, you're stretched out to be a full-time arm. 98 pitches doesn't scare me. A walk doesn't scare me. This guy's been so good this year. I just would have overwhelmingly said, no, you're staying out here. You're getting this guy out. I don't care. You're going to finish this inning. You're good. And Hancock didn't look like he was like, oh, I'm struggling. Everything's coming apart at the seams. He wears his nerves on his face sometimes. How nervous he is, like you can see just by looking at him. He expresses it. In this situation, it wasn't that he was nervous. Maybe a little bit. It was that he was. Like he kind of knew he was good enough. He was kind of just in the zone, it looked like. And then Dan comes out to the mound to take him out. And I forget, it might have been shout out to Angie and Aaron. I thought they were good on the broadcast today, as always. But especially today, they had several specific things that I really liked. And one of them was that, I forget who it was. It was like, as Dan's walking out to Emerson, it's like, man, I wish Emerson would say no, leave me in here, be a little bit like of a starting pitcher, be nasty, be the alpha. And that's kind of what I wish too. I just wish that Hancock could have made it through the 6 innings. We get Bizzardo in the 7th, then Spire. I mean, the matchups, I get and they did this for the matchups too. Hancock's pitch count getting up, and then the matchups. You get Bizzardo against, and so here's what we're going to go do. Yeah, before we even do, the player breakdowns, look at, what pitches and how many swinging strikes and how hard they got hit. I want us to look at the matchups because this is something that we need to be reminded about. Is this is one of the reasons that they're doing this. So you had, Hancock last at bat, Cooper Ingle. He is missing the strike zone pretty badly, and you know how bad it can get with the sweeper, changeup, curveball. When he's going to the other batter's box, things start to unravel sometimes. But I still would have had him out there against Daniel Schneemann. You put Bizzardo in, then Schneemann doubles. I just would have honestly said to hell with the protecting stuff. It's 98 pitches. It's 5 2/3 innings. Let's just get to 6, innings, and let's let Emerson go over 100 pitches. There's no magical number where that's going to, make him bad. And I know the reason is probably, you look at these last couple at bats. Even, with Rocchio, he throws him 1 pitch in the strike zone. Everything else, curveballs, changeups, and a cutter or 2 cutters way out of the strike zone. So he's struggling. He's using his cutter, which he doesn't usually love. He's throwing the curveball and the changeup in the other batter's box, hoping to figure out which way is up again. And then even, but Khalil Watson, look at this. 3 pitch, 2 swinging strikes and a foul. I know it's inconsistent. It's hard to look at and say, the human element, but looking at Emerson Hancock in this inning, I didn't think he was so frazzled that he just couldn't finish the inning. I just would have had him finish the inning. And I know I've been talking about this for most of the video already, but then, let's talk about this, the matchups and how, so that, you got Hancock going against Watson, Rocchio, switch hitter, and then Ingle, him going against 3 lefties, so the 2 other lefties, okay, is what it is. Rocchio is a tough hitter. You want to be careful, and you still manage to get him out and get him really pressing for his first, his first 4-seam fastball. You also got 2 swinging strikes out of the strike zone here. So let's not pretend that he wasn't doing some good things in this inning. And then Cooper Ingle, yeah, this is not the greatest, but also and shout out to Brady Farkas for this. Why do you not challenge the strike 3 call here? Why do you not challenge the strike 3 Mitch Garver? I would just be curious. I'd like to ask him. I would just be curious. That would have been the strike 3 to challenge, and it was. Okay, I guess not this one, not the four-seam fastball right there. Sorry, I don't know what I was looking at. But basically, then you have Bizardo come in, and he does his sweeper, sinker, Bizardo stuff. He gets Patrick Bailey to strike out swinging, but then you've already burned him in the 6th inning. And if anything, I almost would rather have. I will say, I'd rather have like Rucker go into this spot or Simpson, because like if Simpson comes into this spot, you look at this, right? Oh, you're gonna go and you're gonna get these, this last lefty. You're gonna get the one guy, right? That's a more kind of a better task. Instead, the Mariners were aggressive and they said, we want to win the series. I think they were planning on, we have Munoz at the end. You still only got through 8 innings, remember, with your pitching. You didn't have to pitch the 9th because you lost. But you end up with something that's just like, so anyway, remember, we got Hancock against Watson, Rocchio, Engel against a whole bunch of lefties, right? And then you bring in to face a couple other lefties, a righty in Bizardo, trying to get ground balls, allows a double, gets a strikeout. And these are the bottom of the order guys too, like Schneemann and Bailey. Those are the guys that you want Simpson facing. That's going to be lefty on lefty. It's going to be, you go get one out, right? You don't get us a whole inning. But then you end up going Spire for the whole 7th inning. And then Spire gets lefty on lefty against Kwan. Great. Now you could have, at this point, right? Kwan has struggled this year. Maybe you leave Simpson in if he was looking good against the past 2 lefties, right? He's getting a little bit of momentum, send him back out there. And then, you don't have to do this thing like inning by inning. Like you don't have to, like you can just, do a pitcher that starts at the end of 1 inning and goes 2/3 through the next inning, right? You can have a pitcher get 3 outs, but have it, the last one of 1 inning and the first 2 of the next inning. You can do that. And then you get, Bazana, you get DeLauder, right? You've got so many lefties, and Spire, credit to him. He gets a couple outs on some of these tough lefties. He does give up the single to DeLauder. Then you've got Rhys Hoskins. Then a righty comes in, predictable matchups. Rhys Hoskins, first pitch, fastball, middle of the zone, sinker. 210 expected batting average, but it's a hard hit, and it falls into left field. Then David Fry. But with DeLauder's on second right after Rhys Hoskins gets this hit. Then David Fry pops out to Naylor. Mariners end the inning. It's like, okay, cool. You go through this, but then it's like, where are we going now with the bullpen? Because what we've got coming up is Rocchio, Engel, Schneemann. Okay, Rocchio's good, right? He's really protecting these other guys, and Schneemann and Bailey, right? And by the way, the Guardians did play an entirely lefty lineup this series. So just so you know how many lefties they have, that's about how many they have. Enough to do a whole lefty lineup, and they will do it a whole lot of the time. The Mariners, finally see a right-handed hitter with Hoskins and then with Fry. But they leave Spire out for that, and then they end up going Michael Rucker to face. You've got Rocchio, Engel, Schneemann, Bailey. And hopefully you don't get past that, right? So Rocchio, Engel, Schneemann. How do we get these 3 guys out? Well, they're all lefties. Why don't we go with a lefty, but we've already now burned Spire. We don't want to use Ferrer because he's pitched 2 days in a row. That's a crucial part of this equation, is that you're not calculating Jose Ferrer into this equation because you're giving him a day off. You're not going to pitch him 3 days in a row, which I agree with that decision too. You can't just pitch these guys till their arms fall off. You can let Emerson Hancock go one more batter, when he's struggling, obviously, that has nothing to do with the injury stuff almost, but I would, okay. I got to collect myself because this is definitely getting me pretty annoyed. Just, realizing how this went. And I'm not putting this specifically just on Dan Wilson either. I know that he, kind of manages the game based on the information he's given from all of his analytics staff, his, advanced scouting staff, his, the baseball operations department, based on who's on, and I do think, it's like, okay, if these guys are on the roster, here's where they're going to play. If you are a lefty, guy, here's where you're going to play. But I would have ordered things differently, and I would have been really more willing to let pitchers stay out there who look like they might have struggled with one at bat. I wouldn't be so quick to pull guys. That's something in general that I think my philosophy just, I'm less quick to pull guys. I'm less quick to say that a hitter's a failure after weeks of not hitting, and I'm less quick to say that one start for a pitcher is like, oh, he doesn't have it. When he's done it for 90 pitches, then he looks a little shaky for 5 pitches. I'm gonna ride 90 pitches, 96 through 110, with more confidence, probably than the average person. That's just it's a way that kind of the way that I go. But you get former Mariner Matt Festa, first draft pick to reach the big leagues of the Jerry Dipoto era. He Mariners, 4 up, Crawford, Rodriguez, Naylor, Rosarena, but you don't score. And then you got Michael Rucker. You still got a 4-1 lead at this point. Michael Rucker comes out and takes on Rocchio first, pitch at the bottom of the zone, single. Rocchio gets the single. So it's a right on left, Rucker on Rocchio. He's already at the disadvantage, tries to use a cutter, and he actually puts it paint at the bottom of the zone. Doesn't matter. Brian Rocchio is hitting like 300 this year. I would have preferred Simpson in that spot too. And you could have had that. That could have been, or even this could have been where you brought in Spire, right? Because you used Simpson at the end of where you would have used Bizzardo before. Let him go through that a little bit, and then maybe use Bizzardo after that. I don't know, and then Spire here. And then maybe you end up with Andres Munoz in the 9th. After all is said and done, you don't have to use Rucker in such a leverage situation. Although I do like what Rucker's been doing, I think there's an argument to be made that he deserves leverage reps at some point. It's just hard to say that these were the at-bats to do that with. Not just the game or the inning, but the situation, but these specific at-bats to do it with. So, and then here's his at-bat versus Cooper Ingle, where a little bit wild. Okay, it's a lefty. You don't want to make too many mistakes. You throw a couple pitches over the plate, some cutters, which are really, looking to be like that's his game plan against these lefties. But then he eventually, throws a four-seam fastball, 2 in the zone, gives him just a little bit because he has to, get back into it at the very end. But you walk him. And I don't think, again, I think this is Rucker kind of executing his game plan against a guy who, by the way, who did get called up this weekend. This is like his 3rd major league game. His MLB debut was on Friday against the Mariners. Then, you go to Daniel Schneemann and you put up, cutter, sinker, cutter. Then again, you get, once you're behind in the count kind of, or 2-2 count, okay, now let's go for the 4-seam. And then Schneemann puts that thing, which was a meatball, to be honest, puts it into center field. And, that's how this thing unraveled, really. You had players executing their game plans well. You had managers putting trying to be aggressive and win the series, and trying to use their best analytics and their best players earlier on, rather than later. And to keep the game intact until that point. And you just ended up getting so cute with it that you ended up giving the Guardians an entire extra time through the order. And Patrick Bailey, sack bunt, right? This guy's not a hitter. He's a best defensive catcher in baseball, but not much of a hitter. So he sack bunts, moves the runners over. It's all you had to do, considering that Schneemann just scored Rocchio. It's 4-2 game. Bailey, sack bunt, now you got runners on second and third. That's the tying run on second base and scoring position. Stephen Kwan comes in. Rutgers still in here against all these lefties, just getting basically left out to. This is, like, this isn't where I would leave a pitcher in and be like, good, this is your spot. Go do it. But I'm sure the Mariners saw something here and they had a reason for it. I would definitely have some questions to ask. I would ask, why not bring in Simpson instead of Pizzardo, saving Pizzardo for later? Was that, I would really I wouldn't say, why did you do that? I would say, was that something that you guys had considered and what ultimately led to the decision to go with Pizzardo? Because I think that put the pressure on Rucker later on, not the other way around. It wasn't Rucker that put, pressure on Pizzardo about something he already did. It was, which then, Simpson comes in after Kwan walks, bases loaded, tying runs on second base, go-ahead runs on first base. Stephen Kwan does what he does best and stands in the batter's box and doesn't swing. Especially this season, he's got like a 200 batting average. He is completely gone. His bat is completely gone quiet this year, in a way that you just, you don't see guys fall off that way. So he's begging to get on base by any means necessary, and he knows that his bat, is not as good as it's ever been. And so, you give him these pitches way outside the strike zone, hoping he's going to chase, but he doesn't, and then he walks. And I mean, you got to you start the count 0-1. You got him on an 0-1 count. That's what we call going 1-0. In that pitch, and then you get him 2-2 as well. But then you throw these curveballs way out of the zone, almost as if you're scared of this guy. And I know it's Stephen Kwan. He's been an all-star multiple times, but he also has, excuse me, he also has, what's his batting average? Let's go look. 210 batting average. I still think he's a good player. He's still leading off the Guardians, but again, you do this, you load the bases up, and then you put in Josh Simpson. So Josh Simpson is coming in as bad of a scenario as he could be in, but at least it's lefty on lefty, right? Well, then Travis Pisani comes up, and here's where Travis Pisani pops out to J.P. Crawford on the infield fly rule, but J.P. Crawford bobbles the ball and almost drops it. The momentum and the energy and the kind of the tension around this team was just, and this game was just really weird, and it's not something that you want to continue at all. I mean, you want to go into tomorrow's game against the Angels at T-Mobile Park, basically flushing this down the drain. It doesn't do you a whole lot of good to go and sulk on this. Then DeLauder comes in, and I mean, how close are these two at bats? You got sinker sweeper 87% of the time for Simpson is his pitch mix after being a 6-pitch guy last year. And that's all he uses today, the sweeper, sinker, sweeper, gets Pizzano to pop out. JP with a little scare, but works out. And then Chase DeLauder comes in. Sweeper. As soon as you give him the sinker and something in the zone, 106.5 miles an hour, right back up the middle. And that scored 2 more runs. That's so that now the game is tied. Then you've got the go-ahead run on third base. So I mean, Simpson really got put in a position here where it's like, and look what he was trying to do, right? He's, trying to throw, sneak a sweeper outside, sneak a sinker inside, and then just kind of left a sweeper hanging in the middle of the zone, which you get a little bit lucky against Pisano that he pops that up. Then with the Lauder, a sinker in the middle of the zone, and he puts it, back up the middle. It's kind of the results you expect. It's also he just doesn't have that much big league experience this year, so it's a weird scenario for him, to be honest, with Simpson. And then Rhys Hoskins, he does go away from the pitches that he's actually been throwing this whole time, the sweeper, the sinker, and he kind of abandons they chased a lot of sweeper sinker. Then he abandons things versus Rhys Hoskins. This is that play with the weird tag at home plate. That was a whole big deal. But he goes 2 curveballs and then a 4-seam, which is, he has a different approach versus righties and versus lefties. That's great. He's sweeper sinker to the lefties. In the rare scenario where he has to face a righty, he's going to go 4-seam curveball, it looks like. Didn't work here because 4-seam right at the top of the zone. Again, you can't expect, Josh Simpson, you can expect him to go 1-0 every pitch. You can't expect him to never make a mistake. He has in every outing this year. You got to, you know what I mean. So then you got David Fry, and he's another righty. So you go curveball 4-seam. You throw, work a sinker in there as well. Get a swinging strike, get a called strike, and then you end up walking in because you just can't really live in the zone the way you want to. And then Brian Rocchio finally flies out to end the inning from hell. Honestly, yeah, that's mainly what I wanted to talk about today. We're going to go run through this stuff. Emerson Hancock, right? 8 swinging strikes on 98 pitches, and an 86.4 mile an hour average exit velocity. Wasn't terrible, wasn't in the zone enough today. 46% and a 59% strike rate is just not as much as you want. Still, though, his floor is so high. He gave up 1 run. He allowed 5 hits and 3 walks and only gave up 1 run. And he found a way to 6 strikeouts with 8 swinging strikes. So he's finding ways to success with the 2026 version of himself that most pitchers don't, but in a way that he can just keep repeating. His floor is so high. I don't understand. There's no reason to do anything but just keep letting Emerson Hancock go out there. And honestly, when he is having that rough inning, I'd like to see them leave him out there more often than not, because I think he's the guy with the high floor who's not going to get bombed the way that, Logan Gilbert, even sometimes like if Logan Gilbert gets into it and, he's throwing 4-seam at the top of the zone and they connect, okay, it's going out of the park. Or Luis Castillo, when he's off, right, it can be really bad and he can, really allow a whole lot. Even Kirby, I think, is more susceptible to big innings than Hancock. Hancock has allowed 1 big inning all year, 3 or 4 runs or more. And then, Wu has had times where he's thrown the 4-seam at the top of the zone for whatever reason, not getting enough chase up and out of the zone. Then he just throws at the very top of the zone and gets bombed. We've had 2 or 3 of those this year. With Hancock, there's really not a whole lot of terrible starts you can point to and be like, oh yeah, he really had no chance to quality start. Every single time he has a good chance to quality start. Emerson Hancock, the average EVs are in such good shape. I want to see what his percentile is there. He's actually allowing hard contact, but you wouldn't know it by the way that he's doing things because, his ERA is at 3.47, right? He's outperforming his expected stats by a whole lot. Got one of the lowest arm angles in the major leagues, and a really unorthodox way of doing things, but yet he's still somehow prolific. Moving on to, I really thought Hancock had more swinging strikes just by looking at that 5th inning. He had 3 or 4 of these in the 5th inning alone. 2 of them in one of those at bats. So. And it was mostly on the cutter, which uses 24% of the time today, as opposed to 11% on the year. 3 on 24 cutters, that's nice. That's 1 in every 8 is a swinging strike. That's really good. Remember, 12% is ace level swinging strike rate. So that cutter could be a real pitch for Emerson now. I've been kind of waiting to see this thing be more pronounced in a specific start. I don't know if this is something that you're going to start seeing him use to the lefties on every single start. The cutters are so good when you just need to get guys of the opposite handedness out. But this thing has some swing and miss. It also 87.4 mile an hour average exit velocity. In the starts where they do have an insanely left-handed heavy lineup, like the Guardians do, the cutter I think is going to be that's going to be the main secondary for his 4-seam, which the 4-seam too, the horizontal break now, it's at, the year average is down to 12, and Today it was at 11. Emerson Hancock's four-seam fastball being at 10 and 12 is not, and today it was at 7 and 11, 7 inches of induced vertical break. I'm sorry, that's not gonna cut it. It's got it like back at the beginning of the year, it was 15 and 15. That's a massive difference. So you gotta get it back up there. Yeah, guys. He wasn't getting a whole lot of chase. Didn't get a whole lot of swing strikes. Is what it is. But yeah, I got a couple things to say about Emerson Hancock apparently today. Today's gonna be the longest video we've had in a while, isn't it? It's worth it though. Seems like I had more to get off my chest than I originally thought. Gavin Williams, he does end up getting enough swinging strikes to make the Mariners look frustrated. 13 swinging strikes on 103 pitches, 87.8 mile an hour average exit velocity. He used a sweeper as his main pitch, a sinker as his secondary, and then he relegated the four-seam fastball to 11% instead of 23%. The curveball, which I talked about in the pregame quite a bit, like the Mariners, okay, they're going to see this curveball from Gavin Williams, and after struggling with Cantillo's at an insane level on Friday, and then even yesterday, Slade Ciccone got quite a few whiffs on his against the Mariners. They go up against Gavin Williams' curveball. Okay, you're going to see it about 22% of the time. You're going to get a chance to hit it. Unfortunately, Gavin Williams gets 2 swinging strikes on 22 of them. Allows an 89 mile an hour average exit velocity. Just 1 hard hit on 5 batted ball events. So it wasn't a good performance against the curveball. But also, like, Gavin Williams didn't want to up that usage like crazy like Cantillo's was. First of all, his isn't quite as good as Cantillo's. But also, the Mariners are pretty good at hitting most curveballs. So it was just specifically Cantillo's, and it might have just been specifically on Friday, because when they faced him earlier this year, it wasn't nearly that bad in Game 3 of the year either. Then with with Gavin Williams, right, he does get a 62% strike rate despite being in the zone just 41% of the time. A lot of these games recently for the Mariners have been ugly, with pitchers really not wanting to throw in the zone, really just saying, you know what, batters, go and swing and miss like as much as you want. You guys are just going to swing and miss. You guys are not serious about wanting to control the zone, and we're going to call your bluff, and we're going to throw it way out of the zone, and you're going to swing it anyway. You'll take what you can get. Now, the Mariners do get 13 hits today, so I'm not going to say that they perform poorly against Gavin Williams. But it's more about Gavin Williams, the game plan that he was confident in taking to the Mariners. That honestly, I think signifies a little bit of a lack, like he doesn't respect our weaknesses. A lack of respect for the Mariners' weaknesses. It's like I think these MLB teams, more than we know as observers from the outside looking in, or the media space, or anything. It's like, okay, well, we know what pitches the Mariners can hit, and we know what pitches the Mariners can't, and we're just going to go after the ones that you can't hit. Which, like, the sweeper has been a nightmare for the Mariners. The cutter also, I think that's been kind of like, certain cutters have been absolutely annihilating us. Not every team wants to use their cutter like crazy against the Mariners, but a lot of teams do, and when they do, it can be massive. But yeah, Gavin Williams was confident taking a game plan into the Mariners that was kind of like, oh, you know what? You guys are just going to swing at anything I give you. You'll take what you get. Now, the Mariners, they did a good job getting after Gavin Williams. Got him out after 5 innings. 3 runs, 2 earned, 6 hits, 3 walks. 6 strikeouts, but he's a strikeout artist. That's what he does. The average exit velocities were low. So were the rates of throwing the ball in the strike zone. If that makes sense, guys swinging at pitches out of the zone, not going to make as good contact. But then the Mariners, right, a whole lot of hard hits today. You had 4 hard hits for J.P. Crawford. Goes 2 for 6, by the way, in this game. 2 hard hits for Randy Arozarena, 2 for Cole Young, and for Victor Robles. Julio 2 for 4 with a run. Same with Josh Naylor. And then each of them also a ribby and Julio a walk. Naylor not striking out. you got Randy. I mean, Randy Rosarena, 0 for 5 with the 2 hard hits. His stuff is just like his numbers are just coming back down to earth a little bit. He is a pretty safe bet to end up in like the mid 200s batting range or batting average range. And he's been running this insanely high one, 283 right now. He's been running the 290s for the entire first half of the season. So that was bound to come down, that's bound to come down to 270 eventually. He's just, I mean, he has been so good at hitting this year, the contract year. I think working with this Mariners hitting staff, he's really taken a step up in the offseason too. But there's something to be said about like you've ran like 260 batting averages or 240 every year of your career before this, and you've gotten super hot and you've gotten super cold. Like, who are we to think that now you've just, in your career year, you're just going to be this Mr. Consistent? And even though he has, and I think he might still do it, going forward, like there's going to be individual games and individual weeks where you're like, oh, his batting average did drop 7 points from 290 to 283. That was a long-winded way to say that. But then Cal Raleigh, 1 for 3. Good stuff to see there. Scoring a run, walking twice. Like Cal Raleigh is a good contributor offensively. No matter what the stats say, don't let the stuff trick you. Even though 165 batting average, a 578 OPS. A lot of home runs, a lot of walks in there. He had a hard hit as well. Colt Emerson had a hard hit, went 1 for 5. And he actually gave the Mariners a chance in the 9th inning because haven't even talked about it yet. Last thing, this is going to be the last thing I talk about after I go through this lineup. Garver 1 for 3, and Robles 2 for 5, with a run scored as well. I've really liked what I've seen from Robles this year. I think he's a distinctive profile the Mariners don't really have in that mix of outfield guys. Like they've got a lot of platoon bats who can, who can kind of not play defense and are mostly DHs, and but they're really good platoon bats, and stuff. We're going to take good plate appearances. That's like Raley, Canzone, and Refsnyder. Robles is the one that's like, I would actually trust him against both sides of the plate more than maybe any of those other 3. I know it's a hot take with the way that Canzone's played, against the lefties and stuff, and Raley and stuff too. But if I had to pick one of those guys to be like the everyday right fielder, including the defense, including the speed, like I'd pick Robles and I'd keep Canzone in the platoon role. Just wanted to get it. This is going to be one of the longer post games of the year, but okay. The last thing I want to talk about is the Travis Bazzana throwing error at the end. This game should have been over. Colt Emerson gets a hit in the 9th inning, right up the middle. Good stuff. Moves the runner over to third. That the Mariners had, and then it was Mitch Garver. No, Canzone. Canzone hits it straight at Bazzana. Not crazy hard. Let's see if we can find it here. Canzone. Oh no, Canzone strikes out. Robles is the one who hits it straight at Bazzana. Hard hit, right? Right at the ground, right into him, and he bobbles it a little bit, and then he doesn't bobble it. He gets it. He's throwing on the move to first base, and he just misses the throw. And so the Mariners score a run on this. You got Cole Young comes around to score. Cole Emerson gets over to third base, and the Mariners now have all of a sudden, right after this abysmal, last bunch of innings, with a whole lot on the line, the division, the game, the series, the record being at 500. They get something, that they finally get a little bit of luck. And at that point, it was like, if you ask any Mariners fan, I'm sure they would have told you, man, this feels like one of those wins where we come back and, everything is just chaos. And it should have been. But unfortunately, then J.P. Crawford grounds out, and it all ends up for naught, and you lose the game, the series, the division, and your 500 record. And you have a losing record for the first time in the month of June. But a game with 13 hits to 12 hits the Mariners had a 275 expected batting average, the Guardians 214. You can't tell me that the Guardians are a better team than the Mariners. you can tell me that the Mariners have a whole lot more around them, like noise wise, that they need to block out. And I'm going to finish with this. They need to go 1-0 every pitch, stay stoic, and give all glory to God. Because when you do those things, you can't lose. And that's really it. Process over results. And that's going to take us, past the results that we have after game 85, right? I'm not going to be worried about, more worried about the results after game 85, just enough to, spend 45 minutes talking about it and all the things that, could go better. However, still a lot of great signs. The offense ready to have a good week. You get the Angels at home. You got some matchups coming up that you can take advantage of. So let's hope the Mariners just go sweep the Angels and never go below 500 the rest of the season. I will see you guys tomorrow with the pregame and postgame. Be back with a 1-0 podcast with Don Dishes this week. It's been a couple weeks. It'll have been 3 weeks since our last episode on Tuesday, but it's coming. And I will see you guys in the week with more commentary. Go M's.